Cool. I think Jamie and I have been asked to speak mainly so that we can add some extra beardage to the conference, because, I mean, in Jamie's case especially, he's really put some time in for it. I'm going to talk about photo-based campaigning, mainly because anybody who's ever seen me at a conference before knows that I've always got one of these in my hand, because I hate being on this side of them. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a bit about the history and where it comes from. Jamie's going to talk about some specific campaigns, and then we'll give you some tips and tricks, and then we're going to finish up with 2 photos being taken. So all of you should have a Support Don't Punish piece of paper on your chairs. We're going to hold those up at the end, and Jamie will come down and we'll take a photo of that, and then he's going to do another one for another campaign that I'm going to be working on. I'll tell you about in a bit. If you don't want to hold up a Support Don't Punish, that's fine. If you believe that the actual thing we should be doing is punishing, not support, just don't bother putting it up, it'll be okay. So, way back in the sad old days when I was young, then, any form of advertising or campaigning was kind of left up to large companies and TV companies, and public health stuff was things like this. Anybody know who this is? Charlie, and Charlie Says. Yeah. Do any of you know this? Coughs and sneezes. Thank you. That's from 1946. And that's in the public consciousness. And then we have more modern ones like AIDS, Don't Die of Ignorance. Now all of these have something in common. They all use, it's a term that Richard Dawkins coined, which is memes. They're all ideas that are viruses, thought viruses. They're things that we hear and we can't help repeating, and we can't help spreading that idea. He obviously focuses on religion as being a thought virus. I prefer the public health ones like Charlie Says because they lend themselves to much better music tracks. But we're quite lucky with some of the memes that we've had, and I think with the coughs and sneezes especially, just to go back to that one, coughs and sneezes spread diseases, you all know. That was from 1946. Do you really think in sort of 60 years' time, people are going to be saying catch it, kill it, bin it, which is the one from the... They're not, they're still going to be saying coughs and sneezes. It could be worse. Our American friends, their public health meme was, "This is your brain on drugs." And a picture of a frying egg. There's a big Bill Hicks gig that we could go into here talking about seeing the sky split with that and never thinking the brain was a drug. And nowadays memes are we're more used to them to do with cats. We're going to come back to cats in a bit. This is LSD Cat. He's very concerned with the size of the dinosaurs and the dragons that are in the kitchen at the moment. So that was the bad old days, and you needed thousands and thousands of pounds in advertising stuff so that you could get on between Coronation Street adverts. If you were going to do photography stuff, you would buy your camera, not one of these nice modern ones, you'd buy a film camera, you'd get a piece of film, you'd take 24 shots and hope that they were good. You'd never know until you'd sent them off for developing, you'd waited a few days, you got them back. If you were wanting to do some sort of campaign with it, you'd probably have to chat to the old age equivalent of DDN and see about getting them put into a magazine, and then you'd wait for the turnaround for the magazine, which was probably a couple of months in advance. And there was no immediacy there. If you wanted to do a campaign with your peers, you had to know who your peers were. They were your own social network. And social networks then were kind of limited to telephone calls, and you can't really do photography campaigns via telephone calls very well. We've tried, it doesn't work. But we have these now. We have devices that we carry around. I've got my iPad in there that's got thousands of photographs on it. You know, these are some of them. These are harm reduction folk that I've taken photographs of. We can post these to Twitter, we can post them to Facebook, we can set up campaign pages. So Support Don't Punish has a campaign page. If you go into Instagram and use the hashtag Support Don't Punish, you get thousands of hits Most of them actually to do with support don't punish. Some of them really weird, because people put really weird hashtags on photos. The best ones are if you look at black and white and then you get colour pictures of people taking selfies. Never quite get that. So we can do all these sorts of things, and this is kind of the future of campaigning. The amount of traction that Support Don't Punish and groups like this get with just having a Facebook page. Because now I have insomnia a lot, so I do a lot of pals working while other people sleep. So if somebody in Australia starts a campaign, I can be taking a photograph and uploading my photograph to that campaign at 3 o'clock in the morning, using my iPad, the light in my kitchen, and my internet connection, and I can join in an international campaign, just like that. It's all of the barriers are taken away from me, all of the barriers of having to wait for film to be developed. And now over to Jamie. Cool.
That way. Well, thank you very much. Right, so I'm going to go through some of the examples that we have of some of the recent campaigns that have tried to mobilise people behind messages, behind different causes, both from the drug sector but also from elsewhere. So I'll start with the No Hate campaign. The people who designed this campaign describe it as a silent photographic protest. And it was created by some celebrity photographers from the USA, really around the issue of the anti-gay marriage legislation in the States, a protest against that legislation. And because they're celebrity photographers, they were able to get celebrities on board. So what you see when you go on their website is more than 50,000 photos of people's faces with the logo on their cheek and themselves gagged. And that's the meme that they were creating. And it's very well designed. They've got loads and loads of celebrities and these two. And they've been very good at raising the profile, to the extent that actually the campaign, I think it's fair to say the campaign went much bigger than they were ever expecting it to go. And it is now broader than just anti-gay marriage legislation. It's now become a broader campaign against discrimination and other issues as well. So it's been a good example, but a very stylised one. They take the photos of the celebrities. There's not as much kind of user-generated content here. But you've probably all seen this one, #BringBackOurGirls. Now, when more than 250 girls were kidnapped in Nigeria, there was a protest in Abuja, a street protest, to try and get the government to take more action on the issue. And they used this hashtag, they used this slogan, Bring Back Our Girls. But it was actually the fact that there was so little attention being paid to this disaster in the West that actually drove someone to create a Facebook page and to really start to try and get this hashtag trending on Twitter and get people in the West talking about the fact that 250 Nigerian school children had just disappeared. And again, this for me is a great example because it wasn't led by any one big organisation with a big budget. It was a real grassroots effort, started with a Facebook page. And then you get the celebrity support because it's such an important topic and an issue that no one can argue with this. Everyone is behind. And then it obviously went completely viral once they got Michelle Obama. And they got more than 1 million uses of this hashtag in just 3 weeks. It went massive because of the importance of the topic, but also the fact that they had celebrity support. And again, it's a very simple ask. It was a very simple action to take. Just write #BringBackOurGirls on a piece of paper, hold it up, take your photo, and be part of this movement. Obviously, the problem they've got, it's now more than 600 days since those girls went missing, and around 200 of them are still missing. And the problem that they've got now is about momentum. I haven't seen one of these photos on my social media for a long time until I was doing this presentation. The problem they have is keeping that momentum going because the issue is still there. A more recent example is this one, which you may or may not have seen, but it's the #NotInMyName campaign, created, I believe, by the Active Change Foundation in London. And it was a campaign designed for young Muslims to show their solidarity against ISIS and against terrorism, and to say that this doesn't reflect the entire, the Muslim community. And most recently, after the Paris attacks, there were street not demonstrations, but shows of solidarity in Toulouse and Rome, I think, where this hashtag was the kind of umbrella theme for those protests as well. So again, a very simple meme, a very simple idea, but something that gained a lot of traction because of the importance of it. Now, I used to work at the Global Fund to fight AIDS, TB and malaria in Geneva. And when they were trying to do their fundraising campaign a few years ago, they created one of these photo projects. So they called it Be the Generation. And again, it was very simple. You could go on their website, you downloaded one of 6 or 7 different posters, and you take your photo with the poster. And they combined that. You could submit your own photo, and they put it on their website. And they also took photos of celebrities. The promotion they used was Bill Gates, Bono, and you. It sounds like hell. But anyway, it worked. It was a good campaign, and it got people involved. So then when I joined the International Drug Policy Consortium about 3 years ago, I borrowed that idea. And we created the Support Don't Punish campaign, which is, it was launched in 2013, and it's beautifully modelled here by the O'Hare family. We launched it in 2013, and the aim of the campaign is to try and raise awareness about the failed war on drugs, to raise awareness of the harm that our drug policies are causing, the need for harm reduction, the need for a new approach. But again, a very simple message. A very simple message, a very simple logo, and all we were asking is people to hold up the logo, take their photo, and then you're part of the campaign. So we've got more than 7,000 of these photos through the campaign, and photos from around the world. And it's not the only part of the campaign. We also have what we call a global day of action for the campaign, and this year we had 160 cities around the world do something, whether it's a small street protest or a music concert or a seminar or something, to again promote this message. And when I say 7,000 photos, I have to be clear, it's not 7,000 people, because we have about 3 teddy bears, 5 dogs, and the Statue of Liberty. But I'm counting them. I'm counting the Statue of Liberty as a supporter. But it's another example of trying to get people together for this campaign. And we've got 7,000, and we're hoping to have, 10,000 in time for the big UN summit on drugs, which takes place in April. And one of the last examples I want to mention was done by the Harm Reduction Coalition, US-based Harm Reduction Coalition. Now, they did another very simple photo campaign. Again, it was they were taking the photos rather than people submitting their own content. But they combined pictures of the faces with personalised messages that that person writes about drug policy or drug treatment or harm reduction. And one of the reasons why I wanted to showcase this, partly because I love the Harm Reduction Coalition, but also because they then took these photos and displayed them at the United Nations meeting on drugs this year in March. And this is actually a photo from the hallway, the kind of the foyer area of this meeting. So this is somewhere where policymakers from around the world are walking to and fro for 5 days, and we had these photos displayed, huge photos displayed all across the wall to get this point across, to try and use these photos to have an impact. And I think that's a really useful example. And then, as Nigel said, it always comes back to cats. This is where I haven't made this up. If you Google Cats of Harm Reduction, there's an Instagram account, and it's full of cats posing next to harm reduction materials. Don't laugh, my cat's on there, so I'm part of this. I'm part of the problem. But yeah, Cats of Harm Reduction, it always comes back to cats. I'll hand back over to Nigel.
As I said, my dog's going to be on there soon. I've already bought him his disguise. He's an 8-stone Rottweiler. This is a campaign I'm going to be working on now, and I've been spending a couple of months putting together a website, and I wanted it to be live for today, but it's not going to be. And why? Because there's not enough hours. Yeah, I've been busy. It will be live within a couple of weeks because, much like Carl had suggested, I work when other people are sleeping. The insomnia thing always helps. The basic idea of it is changing, as Carla said again, coming back to Carla, it's always you. Changing the narrative. Whenever you see pictures to do with harm reduction, and I Google pictures of harm reduction a lot for different campaigns, it tends to be people overdosed, people injecting in dark alleyways. It's always depressing, it's always drab, it's always dreary images. It's never really celebratory, unless it's something like the Harm Reduction Coalition campaign. The recovery community have kind of cornered the market on photos on hilltops with arms outstretched with sunsets. So I don't think we need the arms outstretched stuff, but we need something that has real messages in there that people can use and people can get behind. So the idea that I had at 3 o'clock one morning was, if we have really beautiful things in this world, we've got a beautiful cathedral here. I'm an atheist and I still see the beauty in this cathedral. We have works of art like the Mona Lisa, we've got beautiful sculpture, we've got nature and sunsets. Let's put some harm reduction messages there. So the idea is just simple harm reduction messages that can be printed out, like don't lick needles. Don't. It's a really bad idea. The name of your city needs a supervised injecting room. The name of your city needs naloxone. These simple ideas and simple messages, and held up and have a selfie taken with them. There you go. Take a selfie of me. There's no beauty behind me, it's fine. There's no cats. We need cats. And we need to change these narratives. It is dreary. We need people to be having images that they can share like this. The other thing about this is that any of you can contribute to it really easily. And any of you can use the images. Any image that's uploaded can be used by anybody. If you're trying to put together a presentation and you want a particular message, go to the website, find the message, put it on your presentations. There will be ones, I'm hoping, for art galleries. Any of you who go to art galleries regularly, please, I want some works of art on there. But that's that basic idea, and I'm hoping it will take off. You've got a couple of weeks. If you go to harmreductionisbeautiful.com, there's a little sign-up thing for your email addresses. I expect it. We've got 200 people here. I expect at least 100 of you to sign up. The rest of you should feel disappointed. So some tips and tricks then on how to make these things more viral. You can't force it to go viral. A campaign will go viral if it's going to go viral. You can do little things to nudge it along. So not having Bono, not having Tony Blair. Tony Blair with a sign is not a thing to make your campaign go viral. How many people? It was about 100 people contributed to that campaign, other than the celebrities. Yeah, about 100, including the celebrities. Yeah. Give people the tools. So if it's a simple message you want, give people a download to go and get it, or tell people exactly what you want them to write. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, when they've got nothing better to do, they can join in. The more barriers you remove to action, the more likely that action is to happen. The ideal would be if we could have it so that the moment we take a photo that's something that could be good about harm reduction, it automatically uploads by some weird algorithm that we have, but we haven't got that. So the simplest thing you could do is print this out, take a photo. Support Don't Punish has worked really well with that one. Simple task, simple ask, simple message. Dead easy. Just quick on the messages though. There's different messages. I'm sure everybody in this room will be holding up a Support Don't Punish, because it's a message that's really easy and anybody can get behind, that we should support people and not punish them. When it comes to messages about groin injecting, maybe some of you wouldn't want to take that photo. So having the simple messages and the simple aspect, understand that different messages are going to be more successful than others. Be original, have goals and targets for what you want to do. Think up good hashtags. The problem with my new one, Harm Reduction is Beautiful, it's catchy, it's a good meme, but it's a bloody long hashtag. So it's not very good for Twitter with its 140 characters. And don't just use plain paper. That image of Michelle Obama doing the Bring Our Girls Home, there's thousands of versions of that. Most of them to do with my husband's drones kill people and anti-drone strike kind of messages. Or just, this was an actual photo that I converted, and it is just simply, don't hold up bad signs on the internet, bad people change them. Celebrity is important. Again, not Tony Blair. Russell Brand joined in on the Support Don't Punish. That got a whole load more people involved, whether you like him or not. He's got a lot of followers on Twitter. But the one that I don't think is done very well is collating these images. Having somewhere that is collecting them on hashtag stuff, using services like Simpler or Hootsuite that will automatically go and get them all for you, and setting those up, having paid accounts on that if you work for an organisation. And then you, while I take photos.
Cool. So basically, I mean, the reason we're giving this presentation is because we think there's a lot of potential in this. We think this is something that, I mean, we've heard from this morning, the need for us to get our messages out there more, because the media aren't portraying these issues properly, and we constantly struggle with the stigma of our cause. And we think there's real potential here. So there's just a couple of things from my experience about how to, well, lessons that we've learned along the way, because you're always going to do that. I think the first thing is to really have a sellable idea, a nicely designed idea, something that people can get behind. I think that's potentially more impactful than just some words on paper like a hashtag. But for us, it also, like as I said, for the Support Don't Punish campaign, the photo project is just one part of a broader project. It's not just photos in and of itself. It's part of a bigger movement that we're trying to facilitate around drug policy reform. And with the Harm Reduction Coalition example being the case in point, make sure you use the photos. These things, it's almost like when you have 7,000 photos, that's like a photo petition that you have. And you wouldn't gather 7,000 signatures and then just throw them in the bin. Use them. Make people aware that you've got this support. Make people aware that this movement exists. And at the big UN summit in New York on drugs in April, there will be more presentations of these photos. There will be more displays where we try and convince the policymakers and try and convince the media in the world that this is a movement that is growing and is going places. And part of that is around building a kind of sense of involvement, building that kind of sense of community with this. With Facebook, you can upload with Support Don't Punish, you can upload your photo on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Flickr. And with the hashtags, it all gets put together, it all appears on the website, and it makes you part of that movement with a very simple action. You've got to keep pushing this thing. I mean, but Bring Back Our Girls, there was a huge surge of interest, and then, because this is just how the world works, it then dropped right off. And the issue hasn't been solved. The issue is still there, but everyone's moved on to the next kind of fashionable idea to get behind. You've got to keep pushing the idea, keep finding opportunities to bring this back into the public conscience, whether it's another forum or another meeting or a new report released on the deaths data. And then finally, bringing it to the people, which is why, so rather than just setting up a campaign and then waiting passively for people to start to follow that, you've got to take it out there. So we found at events in the past, such as the DPA conference last week, actually having some kind of photo booth or some kind of selfie corner, or actually having something active at an event can get people on board and get people interested, as hopefully will putting posters on people's chairs at a HIT conference. So now it's your turn. We're going to take some photos. So if everyone wants to hold up their Support Don't Punish poster. Do you want me down there as well? Yeah. All right. Right, on the count of three, everyone say drug policy. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Right, one more. Carl. Where's Carl gone? He's gone! Mr. O'Hare. Carl, come up front and centre, please. Because believe me, if anything's going to get my site going viral, it's you.
You guys can't see Carl. This is a beautiful view.
You do need to put that on. It was photo. That's it.
Thank you, everyone.